They say no one truly understands eternity until they've touched its edges. I used to preach about it every Sunday, standing firm behind a polished oak pulpit, my voice echoing through stained glass. But I was dead for 48 hours, and what I saw then, what was unveiled to me, shattered every sermon I'd ever delivered. It challenged everything I thought I knew about faith, about judgment, about a beloved apostle. This isn't just a story, it's a raw truth, a revelation I promise to share with you now, piece by agonizing piece. My life before that moment felt like a well-worn path, comforting and predictable. I was a pastor in a bustling suburban church, the kind with a sprawling parking lot and a children's ministry that buzzed with laughter. My mornings began with the scent of strong coffee and the quiet rustle of my Bible pages, preparing for the day's counseling sessions or community outreach. Afternoons found me shaking hands, offering comfort, or wrestling with sermon notes, the hum of the air conditioning a constant backdrop. I'd finish my day with dinner, the clinking of silverware a familiar rhythm, then read to my youngest before the quiet settled in. It was a good life, a full life, outwardly blessed. Yet, beneath the surface, a quiet hum of dissatisfaction often lingered, a hollow space I never quite acknowledged. I was busy, yes, but was I truly present? I avoided that question, pushing it down like an uncomfortable memory. Then, the small things started. A persistent, faint smell of sulfur, like a distant match strike, would occasionally prick the air in my study, only to vanish when I tried to pinpoint it. My antique grandfather clock, a gift from my own pastor years ago, suddenly stopped. Not just once, but twice in a week, its heavy pendulum frozen at 3:17. I'd wind it, set it, and it would tick on for a day or two, then halt again, its silence louder than any chime. I tried to dismiss it, blaming old gears, but a chill, like a cold draft, would brush my skin each time I touched its brass face. It wasn't fear, not yet. It was a prickle of unease, a sense of something subtly out of place, like an off-key note in a familiar hymn. Have you ever felt that whisper of something wrong just beneath the everyday? If this stirred something in you, right now, I want the truth. The unease deepened. I remember the day vividly. It was a Tuesday, gray and damp, the kind of weather that presses down on you. I was mid-sentence during a sermon preparation, discussing grace, when a sudden, crushing weight settled on my chest. It wasn't pain, not exactly, but a profound pressure, as if an invisible hand was squeezing my lungs. My breath hitched. A high-pitched ringing, like a distant bell, filled my ears, vibrating behind my eyes. The room, my familiar study, seemed to waver, its edges blurring. The scent of sulfur returned, stronger this time, metallic and acrid, burning the back of my throat. My vision swam. I reached out, trying to steady myself against the desk, but my hand passed through the air, finding no purchase. The floor rushed up. A cold wave washed over me, not from the damp day outside, but from somewhere deep within. Then silence. Not the kind of silence that's peaceful, but an oppressive, heavy quiet. It was the absence of sound, yes, but also the absence of everything. The feeling of my own skin, the weight of my clothes, even the subtle thrum of my own heartbeat. All of it faded. My body felt like a forgotten garment shed somewhere far behind. Time itself became elastic, stretching and snapping, moments feeling like hours, then disappearing into nothingness. There was no up, no down, no forward, just a vast, cold expanse. I was aware, yet utterly detached, lost, alone. My mind raced, grappling for an anchor, a single familiar thought. But even my thoughts felt thin, transparent. easily scattered by an unseen breeze. This was not sleep. This was something else entirely. This was the passage. The passage stretched on, a descent into something primal and terrifying. The cold, vast emptiness slowly gave way to an oppressive heat. Not the comforting warmth of a summer day, but a dry, searing intensity that felt like it was radiating from inside my own bones. My lungs burned with each non-breath, the air thick, viscous, and heavy, like trying to inhale molten lead. A faint, distant wail began to echo, a chorus of sorrowful whispers that scraped at the edges of my awareness, growing louder, more desperate, with every invisible foot of descent. The smell of sulfur, once a subtle hint, now choked me, a metallic, acrid stench mixed with something else, something cloying and rotten, like forgotten hopes and burnt offerings. It coated my tongue, a bitter taste that clung even when my mouth felt dry as dust. Then, a flicker, a dim, pulsating light, an angry, bruised orange glow appeared far below, casting no shadows, only deepening the sense of dread. It illuminated nothing clearly, only hinted at vast, formless expanses. I felt a tremendous weight pressing down, not just on my chest, but on my very being, pulling me deeper into this abyss. My skin prickled with a phantom texture, as if covered in fine, sharp grit, even though I had no physical form. This wasn't just falling. This was being dragged. What was this place? And why was I being pulled into its agonizing depths? As the orange light intensified, shapes began to resolve from the oppressive haze. This was not the orderly peace I preached. This was a landscape of endless desolation, a vast, cavernous plain stretching farther than any eye could see. Filled with countless figures, they wandered, aimless and alone, their forms indistinct, yet their torment palpable. I saw what looked like a beloved communicator, once revered for his powerful messages, now pacing back and forth, muttering broken, empty promises to the desolate air. His face, etched with a peculiar hunger, constantly searched for an audience that never appeared, his words dissolving into the sulphurous haze. He was forever seeking applause, trapped by the echo of his own voice, a stark testament to the idolatry of self. If you understood the danger of pride, comment, "Pride blinds." Further on, a figure I recognized as an artist, once venerated for her breathtaking creations, sat hunched over, endlessly sketching images in the dust, only for each line to crumble and vanish the moment it was finished. Her hands, once so skilled, now trembled with a futile obsession, trying to recreate a masterpiece that would never last, forever bound by the pride she took in her own gifts. Forgetting the source of true inspiration, the air around her pulsed with a quiet despair, a cold spot in the infernal heat, the sound of her silent sobs, a sharp contrast to the distant wails. Their faces were etched with a torment I couldn't comprehend, yet a part of me felt a cold familiarity, a whisper of recognition for the subtle deceptions that can ensnare us all. I saw a confident leader, once followed by thousands, now stumbling through the desolate plains, stripped of his authority, haunted by the ghostly echoes of his own manipulative words. He reached out, desperate for a hand to hold, a soul to command, but found only the thick, burning air, his deception, once a tool for power, now twisted into his own endless, isolated wandering. The weight of his choices, the burden of leading others astray for personal gain, pressed down on him with an unbearable force. My stomach churned. This was a place where hidden motives were unveiled, stripped bare for all eternity. If you believe consciousness continues, right, I believe. But then through the haze, a figure emerged from the orange glow, one that made my breath catch in my throat, a face I'd known from countless sermons, a name I'd taught about with reverence. He was a man whose letters I had quoted, whose life I had celebrated. He stood not in glory, but burdened, his form stooped, his eyes holding an ancient sorrow. It was an apostle, a giant of faith, a pillar of the early church. Seeing him there, in this place of torment, it twisted my gut. My mind reeled, grasping for an explanation. How could this be? This revered figure, here? The air grew strangely still around him, a momentary hush in the cacophony, and a chill, like tomb-cold stone, replaced the searing heat. The sight was a shock, a profound betrayal of every expectation. If this cuts something in you, right now, I want the truth. Seeing him there, a beloved apostle, in that place of torment, it ripped through the fabric of my understanding. My mind tried to grasp, to rationalize, to find a theological loophole, but there was none. A cold, hard knot formed in my stomach, heavier than any sermon I'd ever preached. The image of this giant of faith, stooped and sorrowful in the bruised orange glow, was a betrayal, not of him, but of my own neatly packaged beliefs. The sulphurous air felt suddenly sharper, cutting deeper into my lungs, as if the very atmosphere itself was judging my shock. Was everything I'd taught, everything I'd believed, a lie? Then, a presence shifted in the haze. It wasn't a figure with a distinct form, but a ripple in the thick air, a cold shadow that seemed to swallow the dim light around it, a voice, not echoing, but whispering directly into the core of my being, slithered into my awareness. It was dry, like old parchment crumbling, yet sharp, like broken glass. "A pastor, are we?" it hissed, a sound that scraped against my mind's ear. "Preaching salvation, forgiveness, eternal life. And yet, look," the shadow gestured, not with a hand, but with a shift in its formless mass towards the apostle. "Your hero, your pillar, here. What does that tell you about your grand narratives, about your assurances?" A low, guttural chuckle followed, a sound that promised no humor, only endless, chilling derision. "For you think your robes, your titles, made you immune? Did you think your eloquent words would somehow pave a different path?" The voice pressed in, a suffocating weight. He preached love. He spoke of grace. Yet here he stands, unveiled in his true state, burdened by what he left undone, by the subtle compromises, the hidden pride that even the most zealous can harbor. The words were like tiny burning embers landing on my conscience. This presence, this accuser, didn't just speak. It probed, it twisted, it found the raw spots in my own soul. It wasn't just mocking the apostle, it was mocking me, challenging every comfortable assumption I held about my own righteousness, my own standing. The air grew heavier, thick with the stench of forgotten truths and unspoken doubts. If you ever felt this call to look deeper, say, "Open my eyes." You, Pastor, the voice continued, its tone dripping with contempt. You stood behind your pulpit, basking in the warmth of adoration, the gentle nods, the appreciative murmurs. Did you ever truly see them? Or did you see reflections of your own importance, your own success? The words hit me with the force of a physical blow, though I had no body to feel it. I remembered the quiet hum of dissatisfaction, the hollow space I'd pushed down. My sermons, crafted with care, suddenly felt hollowed out, their passion replaced by a subtle, almost imperceptible self-congratulation. I saw myself, not through my own eyes, but through the cold, unblinking gaze of this entity. It wasn't just the apostle's presence that was the revelation. It was the mirror this place held up to me. I remembered a specific Sunday, a particularly powerful sermon on humility. I'd felt a surge of pride as I delivered it, a quiet satisfaction in my eloquence, in the way the congregation hung on my every word. My mind replayed the moment. I adjusted my glasses. my hand resting on the polished oak of the pulpit. A small, knowing smile playing on my lips as I drove home a point about serving others. That small, almost imperceptible gesture, that fleeting thought of self-admiration, now stood out like a blazing beacon in this desolate landscape. It was a detail, so small, so human, yet in this light, it was damning. My own hidden motive, the subtle idolatry of my own giftedness, was being ruthlessly unveiled. My heart, or where my heart should have been, constricted. The accuser's voice softened, but the venom remained. You preached grace, but did you truly extend it without judgment? You spoke of faith, but did you trust in God or in your own ability to lead, to influence, to build a kingdom that bore your name, however subtly? The questions hung in the thick air, each one a barb finding its mark. The heat intensified, but it was an internal heat now, a burning shame that radiated from within, a realization of how easily I had confused my calling with my own ego. I had built a good life, a full life, outwardly blessed, but was it truly for him or for the quiet, insidious satisfaction of my own self? If you need to break with deception, write, "Free me from deception." The silence that followed was deafening, filled only with the echoes of my own unveiled hypocrisy. The accuser's voice, a dry, rasping whisper, tightened its grip. You spoke of sacrifice, Pastor, but did you truly give? Or did you carefully calculate what was convenient? What looked good on the offering plate? What would earn you the most esteem? It wasn't just words. It was a cold, sharp blade twisting inside me. I saw it then, not just the apostles' hidden struggles, but my own. My mind replayed the times I chose comfort over true service, the times I preached about giving generously, yet held back my own resources, my own time, my own deepest fears. The air grew heavy, like a shroud woven from unspoken regrets. A phantom chill, sharper than any winter wind, ran through my non-existent limbs. I remembered a specific mission trip. Years ago, I'd led the team, yes, and preached to hundreds, but when it came to the grueling physical labor, the actual dirt under the fingernails work, I'd always found an excuse to delegate, to oversee, to remain just a little too clean, a little too comfortable. My hands, I realize now, were not calloused by true sacrifice, but smoothed by the gentle friction of applause. The sulfurous stench intensified, a bitter reminder of things left undone, of the subtle ways I had protected myself, even in the name of God. This place, I understood, was not just about grand sins. It was about the hidden corners, the silent compromises. It was about everything unveiled. You champion truth, the accuser hissed, its formless mass seeming to swell. But did you always speak it, even when it was unpopular? Even when it might cost you a few members? I saw the faces of those I had gently steered away from difficult truths, the sermons I had softened, the uncomfortable conversations I had avoided, all to maintain peace, to keep the numbers up, to preserve my reputation as a beloved communicator. The silence that followed was deafening, filled with the echoes of my own cowardice, my own subtle deceit. A profound weariness settled over me, a bone-deep exhaustion that went beyond physical fatigue. I had nowhere left to hide. If you need to break with deception, write, "Free me from deception." I was adrift in a sea of my own failings, drowning in the suffocating realization that my righteousness was a flimsy cloak, easily shredded. The bruised orange light of that desolate plain seemed to mock me, illuminating every flaw, every hidden motive. The wails of the tormented, once distant, now seemed to merge with the accusations echoing in my mind, forming a single, agonizing symphony of despair. I was no different from them. Worse, perhaps, because I had stood behind a pulpit, claiming to lead others to light, while harboring so much shadow within. My heart, or what was left of it, ached with a pain far deeper than any physical wound. I was utterly condemned, utterly lost. Then, just as the accuser's presence seemed to close in, ready to consume me, a new light began to pierce the oppressive haze. It wasn't the angry orange glow, but a pure, soft radiance, like dawn breaking over a dark ocean, yet it was brighter than any sun. It didn't burn, it soothed, even in this place of torment. The sulphurous stench faded, replaced by an aroma so clean, so fresh, like rain on dry earth, mingled with something ancient and sacred, like frankincense and myrrh. The wails softened, receding into a gentle hum. The accuser recoiled, its formless mass shrinking, its whispers dissolving into impotent static. It could not stand in this light. And then, a voice, not a whisper, not a hiss, but a sound that resonated through every fiber of my non-existent being. It was clear, deep, yet impossibly tender, like a father's embrace, but with the undeniable authority of creation itself. "My child," it began, its words carrying the weight of eternity. "You have seen the depths of human brokenness and the subtle snares of the heart." Each word was a touch, a balm, yet it held an unyielding truth. No deed, however grand, can outweigh a heart unveiled before me. The words were simple, yet they reordered everything. They were not a condemnation, but a clarification, a path. The voice continued, its tone unwavering, yet full of profound sorrow and immense love. "The apostle you saw, he too loved and stumbled. His zeal was great, but his humanity remained. This was not judgment for judgment's sake, but a statement of divine understanding. He, like you, needed grace, not for his achievements, but for his surrender." The words were like cool water on my parched soul, yet they also carried the sharp edge of absolute justice. I understood then. It wasn't about the doing, but the being. It wasn't about the outward show, but the inward truth. "If you are with me until here, say, 'The truth liberates.'" The voice paused, and in that silence, I felt a love so vast, so encompassing, it threatened to shatter me. Not with pain, but with pure, unadulterated goodness. It was a love that saw every ugly corner of my heart, every hidden motive, every subtle pride, and still it offered itself. You have seen your own heart, Pastor. You have known the weight of self-deception. Now choose to live unveiled. It was a command, yes, but also an invitation. A profound understanding washed over me. My carefully built life, my ministry, my reputation, all of it felt like dust. I had been judged, not by a vengeful God, but by the perfect standard of love itself. And I was found wanting. But in that moment, in that unbearable clarity, I also felt a release, a profound, aching freedom. The verdict weighed, yes. The clarity hurt, absolutely. But it also liberated me from the prison of my own making. The verdict weighed, yes. The clarity hurt, absolutely. But it also liberated me from the prison of my own making. Then, a strange sensation began, a subtle tug, a faint, almost imperceptible pull upward, away from the bruised orange glow and the fading whispers of the accuser. The pure light that had pierced the haze intensified, drawing me in, wrapping around me like a comforting yet demanding embrace. The scent of rain and frankincense lingered, a promise of something clean, something new. I felt a tremendous rushing current, as if I was being drawn through a vast, unseen tunnel. The air around me shifting from the thick, viscous heat to a cool, clean breeze that kissed my non-existent skin. The silence, once oppressive, now held a new quality, a gentle hum, like distant chimes. My awareness, still detached, began to gather. I felt a faint, insistent pressure, then a dull ache somewhere far away, a sensation I recognized as my physical body. It was like trying to put on a coat that was several sizes too small, stiff and unfamiliar. The rushing intensified, a dizzying spiral of light and fading darkness. Then, a sudden, jarring jolt. A harsh, sterile smell pricked my nostrils, replacing the sacred aroma. The coolness gave way to a chilling dampness, clinging to my face. I heard a muffled beeping, a steady, rhythmic pulse, and the low murmur of voices. Indistinct, but undeniably human. My eyes, or what felt like my eyes, struggled to open, heavy and reluctant. A blurry, fluorescent light assaulted my vision, a stark contrast to the pure radiance I'd just left. The air was thick, heavy, tasting of antiseptic and something metallic, like stale blood. My tongue felt dry, swollen, glued to the roof of my mouth. I tried to move, to lift a hand, but my limbs felt like lead, unresponsive. A deep, rasping cough tore through my throat, a sound that felt alien, painful. I was back. But where was back? And what had happened? The memory of the apostle, the accuser, the voice, it all swirled, vivid and terrifying, just beneath the surface of my returning consciousness, a weight I already knew I'd carry forever. A woman's voice, soft but urgent, cut through the haze. "He's waking up! Get the doctor!" Her words felt like gravel in my ears. I felt a gentle, cool hand on my forehead, a touch that grounded me, yet also brought a fresh wave of disorientation. The beeping quickened. My eyelids fluttered open again, forcing themselves against a tremendous fatigue. I saw a sterile white ceiling, a plastic IV bag dripping clear fluid, and the worried, tear-streaked face of my wife. She looked older, her eyes red-rimmed, her hair disheveled. How long had I been gone? What had she endured? Her relief was palpable, a wave of warmth that momentarily pushed back the lingering chill of that other place. "John," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You're back. Oh, thank God you're back." Her hand tightened on mine, a real physical grip, and the sensation was overwhelming. I tried to speak, but only a dry croak emerged. A doctor, a kind-faced man with tired eyes, appeared beside her. "Pastor," he said, his voice calm, "you've been in a coma for 48 hours. We almost lost you. It's a miracle. 48 hours, 2 full days. The reality of it hit me like a physical blow. I had truly been dead. I had truly been in that place." The cold dread returned, mingling with profound gratitude. How could I ever explain what I had witnessed? How could I articulate the truth that had been unveiled? The days that followed were a blur of tubes, tests, and whispered conversations. My body was weak, but my mind was different, sharper, heavier. The memories of that place, the faces of the tormented, the apostle's sorrow, the accuser's venom, and the voice's tender, absolute truth, they were etched into my very soul. They didn't fade with the hospital lights. They haunted my dreams, yes, but more profoundly, they reshaped my waking hours. The world looked different. The sunlight streaming through the hospital window seemed both brighter and more fragile. The laughter of a child in the hallway held a new, poignant sweetness. My return wasn't just physical. It was a complete overhaul, starting from the inside out. The first change, the most immediate, was how I approached my own routine, the very fabric of my days. Before, my mornings were about preparation, about getting ready to serve. Now they became about being present. The quiet rustle of my Bible pages, once a familiar habit, transformed into a desperate thirst, a communion. I didn't just read words. I devoured them, searching for the unveiled truths I now knew existed beyond the veil. My coffee, once just a kickstart, became a moment of quiet gratitude, its warmth a reminder of the searing heat I'd escaped. If you value unvarnished accounts like this, subscribe to Walk With Me. The hum of dissatisfaction I'd pushed down for so long, the hollow space, it was gone, replaced by a burning urgency. I began to spend less time on superficial tasks, on the endless administrative duties that had once consumed my afternoons. Instead, I sought out genuine connection. My counseling sessions, once structured and sometimes detached, became deeply empathetic, rooted in a raw understanding of human brokenness and the subtle deceptions we all harbor. I looked at the faces in my congregation, not as an audience for my eloquence, but as souls grappling with their own hidden motives, their own quiet compromises. I saw the struggle, the longing for an unveiled truth, in every tired smile, every downcast gaze. The second profound change was in my family life. My youngest, the one I used to read to before the quiet settled in, suddenly seemed more precious, more real. Before, I'd been present physically, yes, but often my mind was still wrestling with sermon notes or planning the next community outreach. Now, when I read to him, I was there. I smelled the faint scent of his shampoo, felt the softness of his hair against my cheek, heard the innocent wonder in his questions. The clinking of silverware at dinner, once just a rhythm, became a symphony of connection, each chime a reminder of the fleeting beauty of shared moments. I listened, truly listened, to my wife, not just hearing her words, but sensing the unspoken burdens, the quiet joys. I understood that true ministry began at home, in the unveiled honesty of those closest to me. I realized then that my old life, outwardly blessed, had been subtly hollowed out by my own pride, my own self-importance. I had confused activity with intimacy, performance with presence. That was the crushing clarity, the painful liberation. And it was just the beginning. My old life, outwardly blessed, had been subtly hollowed out by my own pride. I had confused activity with intimacy, performance with presence. That was the crushing clarity, the painful liberation. And it was just the beginning. My consumption habits changed. Fleeting comforts, once chaste, now felt hollow. I craved simplicity, truth. Possessions felt burdensome. My community involvement transformed. Sermons, once polished, became raw dialogues, speaking from an unveiled heart. I stopped seeking applause. I sought to truly serve. If you decide to change today, comment "New Beginning." Finally, my devotion deepened. Prayer, once duty, became lifeline. It was listening for that voice. My faith wasn't intellectual assent. It was surrender, living with an unveiled heart. Awe replaced fear of judgment. Profound gratitude for grace reaching even into hell. This journey, friends, is for you. We all have hidden corners, subtle deceptions. What needs to be unveiled in your heart? Is your faith outward show or raw, liberating truth? If this decision is yours, write, "Jesus, I choose you." Don't wait for your own passage. Choose now. Say it from your spirit. "Jesus, I surrender my hidden self. Unveil my heart. Lead me in truth. I choose you today and always." Tomorrow morning comes. Read John 3:16-21. Do one small, unacknowledged act of service. Renounce one subtle pride. Tell one trusted person a truth you found today. I thought my purpose was clear after what I saw, but the hardest battles are fought not in hell, but in the quiet choices of daily life. Those daily choices, the echoes of eternity. That's what we'll unveil next time on Testimonies of Faith.